Morning, hello there. I hope that your Tuesday is off to a great start. Welcome to Full Circle. We have an exciting show lined up for you. Today it's all about relationships, starting with a relationship with yourself. We're going to be addressing toxic shame and how this can actually end up being detrimental to your own well-being and self-development. Also, find out which accessories you need to have in your house to spruce up your space. Plus, later on, we're going to be finding out what men wish women knew. And also, stick around. We have our weekly fitness segment. So if you want to burn those calories, you want to catch up on some tips on how you can actually get to your ideal weight. Well, right now, let's kick off the show with our quote of the day, which says today, be patient with yourself. Growth is tender. It is holy ground. There is no greater investment. This is a quote by Stephen Covey. Be patient with yourself. Growth is tender. It is holy ground. There is no greater investment. So obviously this is a quote that a lot of people can relate to, because it's sometimes, we beat ourselves up. You can have expectations, dreams, goals, but the reality is that it takes time. And when you feel like you're stuck, you're not moving, you can actually end up being very brutal and very hard on yourself. But what I want you to remember today is that what counts is take stock, look at where you are, as long as you're not where you are when you started. Appreciate yourself, even for those small goals, small wins, because ultimately success is a journey that is meant to be enjoyed, not a destination. Well, right now, let me introduce our first guest this morning. I have with me Coach Robert Burale in studio. He's going to be talking to us about healing and getting rid of toxic shame. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you very much for having me.
So usually we meet in another show.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay. A change is as good as the rest.
Yes, I'm filling in for Joyce Omondi. We should be back next week, guys.
Right.
Yeah, but I hope that you will support us and enjoy the rest of the show. So, Robert, we're talking about toxic shame. I think probably we need to start at what is toxic shame?
Toxic shame is actually different from what we call normal shame. It is the kind of shame based on words that has been spoken to you or events that have happened, but are not, they don't seem to leave you. They actually control your day-to-day life. Maybe something that happened when you were much younger, a word was said, or you blame yourself for doing something, so you feel ashamed that you caused this to happen. But you know what? It's still like a noose on your neck. You try to move on, but it just brings you back. And many silently suffer that, and we may not understand it, but we see the repercussions or the manifestations of toxic shame in behavior change or some not normal behavior. And some people maybe say, why do you like behaving this way? Not realizing the root is actually toxic shame.
And we also have guilt. So what's the difference between guilt and toxic shame? Because
well, guilt is when maybe you did something and that caused somebody pain and you feel guilty. You're like, oh my goodness, I was the reason that happened. And that can slide off or be diluted after some time. But elongated guilt turns into toxic shame.
For sure.
Yes.
And maybe where we start off with guilt, because a lot of the time guilt comes from remorse.
Yes.
That's why in a lot of ways, when you're feeling guilty, it's a bit more easier to digest.
Absolutely.
Because guilt means that I recognize I was wrong here and I feel guilty. So already there's some form of redemption.
Yes.
But now with shame is a different kind of emotion. And you've talked about various sources of this shame.
Right.
Maybe let's start with Genesis shame. Shame that comes from your upbringing. Shame that comes from, the environment around which you were cultured.
Right.
And I feel like this is, in a lot of ways, for us who are adulting, very subconscious. You might not realize it until now you find yourself going through, one of those life-changing moments, like maybe after a breakup, a career setback, and then all these negative emotions start stemming back.
Mm-hmm. Something maybe was said when you were young by your parents, by your big brother, that made you feel worthless, and it stays somewhere in your subconscious. It doesn't come out every other day, but it's there, and you keep on saying, I can't seem to get through this hurdle, but I'm going through life anyway, until when something happened, like maybe there's a breakup, and then it's amplified. Oh, no wonder my father used to say I'm good for nothing. Is that the reason that this person has left me? And then you start feeling worthless, and then you start feeling ashamed of yourself. Actually, when you start having toxic shame, you start blaming yourself for anything that happens to you. In fact, even when it's not your fault, but because of that thing that was inculcated in you from a young age. And that's why even as parents, you have to be very careful what we say to our children, because it's like a computer. It is stored somewhere.
Right.
And then later in life, it comes out. I have seen women, to be honest with you, saying, my husband cheated on me, but I think it's my fault. You know, you're so shamed about yourself that you take anything wrong done to you as a deserving act based on what happened when you were much younger.
Or probably what happened to your mother. Because
Yes.
now that you mentioned parenting, and there's an element of conscious parenting here.
Right, yes.
In that you have to be very aware, self-aware for starters, and at the same time, if you're not too careful, you might pass on the same negativity down to your own children. And you see that
Absolutely.
happening so many times.
I talked to somebody a couple of weeks ago, actually, and something had happened to her, something very huge. And she said, you know what? I'm going through exactly what my mother went through.
And there's a shame in that.
Absolutely.
Is-
And then she asked me, will my daughter go through the same? So it's and sometimes people call it generational curses. Yes, there's a part for that, but it's not always that. There's a part for, oh, so this is part of our family. We are used to being this hopeless. So it happened to my mother, it has happened to me. So if it happens to my daughter, I expected it anyway. So what happens is that the subconscious, you kind of start accepting that which you should not accept. So within yourself and your environment as a parent, you start saying or doing some things that now will make your daughter or your son also feel, okay, so I expect to go through this. It may not be right, but you know, there's a way you can be so used to pain that you accept pain.
And, you know, you've just mentioned generational curses.
Yes.
And this is something that, you know, it comes up within the spiritual world.
Absolutely.
It comes up within religion.
Right.
And I feel like toxic shame is part and parcel, like you've just said. So how can you help people get past that toxic shame? Because you really cannot break the curse
Right.
until you become, you have to recognize that, you know what, people in my family have a drinking problem. People in my family have a cheating problem. People in my family have a mothering problem.
Right.
So how do you get past the shame so that now you can actually address whatever the root of the issue is?
Look at yourself in the mirror and have a conversation with the man and the woman in the mirror and say, you know what, this is us. There is a family. My family divorce is very rife. And I go to a place and I had to say, you know what, this is happening and I have to face it. The problem is some people know there's something that is happening, but they hide their head in the sand, hoping it will just wishing it away. It doesn't go away. In fact, it will get worse. You know, if you don't deal with it, your children will have to deal with it. So what I would advise somebody is to accept the shame. Like, you know what, our family is known famous for alcoholics. You know what, and I have a struggle with alcohol. So I'm going to accept the situation. This is it, because you will only go to hospital if you accept you have the headache. And then when you tell the doctor I have a headache, they will prescribe the right thing. But imagine you're having a crazy headache and then you say you have a toe ache. So the doctor will give you medicine, but for the wrong thing. So you got to say, you know what, this is a situation that is very common in our family, and I will be the one to break this. I will be the womb breaker. I'm just going to say enough is enough. So anybody who has accepted this situation because it's normal in their family and it's not right, the fact that it's normal does not mean that you should accept it. So it's just to look at yourself and say, you know what, I am part of this. I repent that this is how we have been, but anybody after me will not go through this. Then when you get there, okay, so then what do I need to do?
Okay, some very wise words there from the coach himself. If you have any questions on today's topic, we are talking about toxic shame, how to break the cycle. Please feel free to get on the SMS line on your screen, which is 111 444 111, and of course on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. Check out the Switch TV pages. Let me know if you have any questions or any experiences dealing with toxic shame. And of course, later on in the show, I have a giveaway for the guys. I said later on we're going to be talking about what men want women to know. So stick around for that. But right now, it's time for a very quick break. We'll be right back. Good morning and welcome back to Full Circle. So early on we were talking about healing and getting rid of toxic shame. Coach Burale in studio with us this morning. So Coach, I want to ask you, have you had a personal experience with dealing with toxic shame?
Yeah, I have. Mine didn't start when I was young. Mine started when I was much older. And toxic shame can come from various quarters, from people. People have tried to shame me in some quarters. And if you're not careful, you may start believing what they're saying. And it took a lot of power from within and prayer to now not believe some of these things, you understand? Then you realize some of these people who are trying to bring this shame and make it toxic, for that matter, are actually insecure about themselves. So that's one way of actually dealing with it. Now that you ask that, you start now saying the source of this is actually trying to deal with their own issues and their own insecurity by trying to bring shame to you. And when I started looking at it that way, I started saying, you know what? Actually, I shouldn't let this be something on my neck. And I broke off. When I was much younger, I grew up largely in a very loving home. I would not say my mother or my father said things that would hold me back at this stage of my life. No, very loving. My father died, my mom is still alive. But we're pretty close-knit family, good things were being said. I mean, when you're being lectured, words may be said, but you look back and say, they didn't say it to shame me, but they were saying it because they wished me the best. I don't think I would be fair if I said I was told things that have hurt me. I wasn't told you're a useless child. I wasn't told you'll amount to nothing. No, I wasn't told those things. I was actually told there's greatness in you. I was told, you know, you'll make us proud. And maybe that should be something that parents need to understand, that your words carry power. And I hope that I've also inculcated the same on my daughter. You know, of course, as parents, sometimes our children may not agree with what we are saying. But the foundation of why we are saying some things is because we wish them the best. But we have parents who say, you'll amount to nothing. You're a useless person. You're a useless boy. That holds somebody. And later in life, even with great academic qualifications, they don't seem to get to their A game or to manifest the best of what they're supposed to because of that shame. They don't believe they're good enough. Or I don't think I should be, even when you deserve to be at the front of the line, you're told, come to the front, you're holding back. No, I'm okay here. Yeah. And we may mistake that as humility.
It's not.
No.
Someone's confidence is flawed.
Yes.
And let's talk about shame in the context of social media.
Yes.
So today more than ever, we've seen that we have a cancel culture. And I think tukienda pale kwa mitandao,
yes,
currently there's a couple that's, you know, embroiled in something,
right,
between the two of them.
Yes.
So what you're seeing now is that the social media in-laws are shaming. Today they are shaming the guy, tomorrow they are shaming the wife. I saw that,
yes.
The next day they are shaming
it's like
the
a
new.
seesaw.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, that really is a way where the collective comes and decides that, you know what, Burale, you did this wrong. We're going to shame you.
Yes.
You know, you are a bad father. You're a bad husband.
Yeah.
So what would you say to such people? Because unfortunately, when I look at the culture today, that is happening very often. Last week it was somebody else. This week it's this person.
Yes.
Next week it's going to be somebody else. So what would you say to such a person? And unfortunately, it's usually those of us who work within the media and entertainment circles.
First and foremost, I have seen this couple throwing buffs at each other. If I knew them personally, I'd have told them to back off. Nobody cares about you on social media. They love controversial stories. In fact, I really wish, and we're not mentioning names, but if they are hearing, they'll know who I'm talking about. I really wish you'd stand down.
Can we just keep it real? This is Frankie and Maureen and Frankie.
Okay, fine. If you allow me,
they're shaming each other.
Yeah,
that is what it is. And
to
it's
Frankie
toxic.
and Maureen and too, I want to tell you something. You once loved each other. You have products in as far as children based on the love and respect you had for each other. I wish you'd stop shaming each other. I wish you'd stop washing your dirty linen in public, because the people who are commenting don't really care. If you came out and say, we love each other, we are forgiving each other, you'd not have very many comments. But when you start abusing each other, this one did this one did that, people come, the social media in-laws come, and they start abusing you. They start abusing Frankie, they start abusing Maureen. But what you need to understand is that to your children, you are their heroes. So when they grow up, And Maureen rightly said, social media doesn't forget. When they grow up, they'll see people who are abusing their father, people who are abusing their mother. It may affect the children. And I want to tell them right now, and any other person, please don't fight on social media, because these people don't care about you. They just love the fact that you're abusing each other. And some will abuse Maureen, not because they know her. It's because maybe a woman hurt them, so they're using Maureen to show forth their anger.
She's now the poster child
Yes.
for any woman who,
Yes.
you know.
Some will abuse Frankie.
Yes.
Because there's a lady somewhere who was hurt by a man.
Right.
So I'm going to use that anger and point it at this guy.
So it's being projected.
Yes.
Misplaced in a lot of ways.
And guess
as
what?
well.
You'll be left hurting each other, licking the wounds, children getting worried, and then they'll look for the next big story.
And you know, it's interesting because when we look at that particular situation, you can tell that the source of this is obviously the breakup.
Right.
So breakups are a huge sort of like source of toxic shame, whereby
Right.
now, let's start with the woman, and especially where the man has left the woman and moved on
Yes.
with another woman.
Right.
You know, there's always that thing of, obviously society will now look at me like, was I the problem? Maybe I really wasn't.
Yes.
But the fact that he's out there living his best life and he seems happy.
Yes.
Yeah. I may know that really this man was a problem, but then there's that shame that comes with, so I'm the one who couldn't make him happy. What would you say to women in that particular position?
Ladies should understand, if a man leaves you, don't blame yourself. The moment you start blaming yourself, it will even affect you going forward in relationships coming. You'll be like, okay, fine, the first one left me, he moved on, he seems to be happy. Seems to be happy is the case, because is the word we need to put across, because social media is a facade. Social media is largely a fake place. So don't stress yourself based on somebody's happiness on social media. Some people are public successes but private failures.
And there is a lot of that in this culture.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like this year it's like there is a spirit, Burale. The spirit is working.
Yeah, I mean, why people are trying too much on social media?
Yes.
You're trying, and sadly, tell me, some people are going through so much hell and stress, thinking I seem to be the only one not doing well. And 90% of these things on social media are actually fake. You understand? And to ladies who feel maybe because the man has moved on, there's something wrong you're doing. No. Maybe the man that left you was a boy. The king is on the way.
For sure. Amen.
And I'll just allow me. Frankie and Maureen are very good people individually. You can tell.
And there was love there.
I don't know them personally,
Yeah.
but I know they encouraged many people when they were together. All I will urge them to do is stand down, let love win, let honor win, let respect win. At the end of the day, you have children together. You may be in disagreement, the two of you, but always remember, as long as you have a child with somebody, put the children first. And if you can do that, you'll automatically respect each other. Social media in-laws want you to keep on abusing each other. They don't really care about you.
Because it's entertainment for them.
They don't really care about you. Some are there because they have access to free Wi-Fi. So they want the stories. Yeah. People love gossip. I mean, if I talk about myself, nobody likes, maybe not many people would like my status when I'm preaching. But when somebody said I'd been paid 20 million to say I have COVID, I trended for 1 week.
Yeah, you are the man of the moment for a minute there.
Yes. I mean, I was discussed even by the CS. I mean, a whole journalist went and asked even the cabinet secretary.
Have you paid Burale?
You understand?
Yeah.
Somebody went to school for 4 years to do journalism. Asked such a question, But that's what I'm telling you. And I'm not blaming her for asking. She asked because she knew that would be the question that would trend. And guess what? It did. Social media is crazy.
But obviously you have the mental strength. And now I wanna look at it from a man's perspective.
Right.
Because we've spoken about how women can overcome toxic shame.
Right.
So how can men also overcome toxic shame? Because it can be a lot. And I'm just going to throw out a couple of names, people who've been dragged. I mean, there was one, Wilkins Fadhili,
I remember him.
and he was literally taken through the blender.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, people do make mistakes, but
Right.
I feel like today more than ever, social media is just this monster whereby it can be used for good, but at the same time, it can also be used for so many negatives. And also if you look at Frankie as a man, because he's coming from somewhere where he's saying that I'm being shamed that I'm a deadbeat dad. So what advice would you give to any man who feels that, you know what, the culture now is shaming me? And to some extent, I can argue that part of what they're saying has some truth in
Right.
it. How then do you start dealing, making amends? Because I truly believe, again, going on social media to address it is not the answer.
No, it's not. I think the first thing is look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Look at what is true and make amends. Not everybody. You know, there's criticism and there's haters. Constructive criticism is criticism that is there to make you look at yourself and get better and improve yourself. It's from a very genuine place. It's from a very good place. If you look at it with the right eyes, tomorrow you'll be better than you are today. Then there's haters. Haters may not even know you, but they'll have an opinion about you because they need to jump on the bandwagon of people abusing you. So for Frankie to people like Wilkins, whatever he went through, and many others, look at yourself in the mirror. It's an inside job. Otherwise, if you allow the haters, in fact, it starts this way. If you primarily live for the praises and the likes on social media, then you have given them the power to kill you when they start negative criticism. So identity is an inside job, and I want to urge people is that do not look for identity based on the likes and the comments when you post a photo, when you post your lipstick, when you post your 6-pack or 1-pack or 10-pack. Inside job. I know who I am. I was brought to this world to make changes. I was brought to this world to create impact. And I work backwards, and I've said this almost everywhere I have spoken. Today, you're a day closer to your death. Everybody, you and I, the guys behind the camera, the producers, anybody watching us today is one day closer to their last day.
For sure.
Do you know one thing? There's somebody who is not aware that they are 5 minutes away from breathing their last. There's somebody who may not be aware tomorrow is their last day. So how do you operate is when the coffin that was open when you were born, there was an opening, either through CS or natural. When you die, there'll be a closing, which is your coffin. Ask yourself, what will people say about you as they go through your coffin? Will they say, here lies a great man? Or will they say, this is just somebody who loved likes on social media? If you reason like that, then you will know you are not here to live for people, but you're here to create impact on anybody who comes around you, and the voice of purpose that speaks louder when you're dead will speak even beyond your geographical area. If you have that in mind, then you will not allow criticism, haters to abuse you. Some people, as I said, will abuse you because they have access to free Wi-Fi. Right. Others will abuse you because everybody else is abusing you. Others will abuse you because they don't feel good about themselves. Others will abuse you because they have been hurt by other people and now they're looking for somebody to release their anger on. So if you take all that, then you know what? You'll be taking 1 step forward and 10 steps back. Okay. I tell you something, when I was trending when I had COVID, if I didn't know who I am on the inside, I would have been dealing with COVID and depression.
And that is the reality for so many people. Now, still on that, because we are seeing also another thing. How do you handle toxic shame, especially in the context of marriage? If one spouse is now exposed for cheating,
right,
and for some reason both parties agree to stay within the marriage.
Right.
So obviously everything is not, it's not instant.
Right.
There's a lot of work that has to be done. But what advice would you give such a couple?
It is work on the inside, in the 4 walls. Forget about what other people will say or their opinions. If there's cheating, let me tell you, you don't cheat on Monday and everything is okay on Tuesday. You now go to work. Whoever was cheating apologizes. And the best apology is a changed behavior. And then make sure you do not listen to the people, because when there's a couple, maybe one has cheated and they decide to forgive each other, guess what? Some people on social media will be disappointed because then there's no fodder to speak about. They want you guys to break up so that they can speak for another 1 week. When you forgive each other, let me tell you, it is the 2 of you who have decided. But make sure you work on it in the private place. Pray, talk, and say, this has happened, how do we surmount this challenge? But if you allow many people, trust me, they will hate you. I get so disappointed when a couple decide to forgive each other And people on social media saying, you're foolish. Why did you forgive her? Why did you forgive him? I saw my friend saying yesterday, oh, people say, itaisha na machozi. It will end in tears.
Premium tears.
Are they your
that's
tears?
the phrase nowadays.
Are they your tears I'm crying? I mean, move on, you guys. You are there saying the way they should break up. You have not even been asked for a date even on a WhatsApp. So listen, if you don't have a date, stop hating on people who have decided to forgive each other.
Right.
You know, some people, maybe it's because the only time a man says hi to you is when the pastor says, turn to your neighbor and say hello. So because nobody invites you for coffee, you're not even invited in a WhatsApp group for virtual coffee, you hate everybody who seems to be happy in a relationship. And by the way, you're abusing people because they went through some hell in their marriage, maybe because they're public figures. If yours was to be said, you'd have nowhere to hide.
And for sure, we've been talking about toxic shame now from an individual level, how to handle it.
Right.
But maybe also how can we emphasize the responsibility we all have as a collective? Because a lot of the times when people are feeling ashamed, it's coming from somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. Not all the time. Sometimes it's very internal.
Right.
But also today more than ever we are seeing where external factors make it an agenda.
Yes.
I will make Robert Burale feel. Anytime he posts a picture, their comment section
Right.
becomes. So how can people just be more responsible and understand that we are all responsible for each other? And especially now that you've brought up mental health and depression,
Right.
which is something that a lot of people are dealing with.
Culture change, mindset. I think I want to urge everybody. We all are struggling with something. Nobody's perfect. You who is hating on somebody is not perfect. It's just that your scars and your pimples are hidden. Don't laugh at the scar on my face because you cannot see the scar in your chest. You understand? Somebody's struggling with alcoholism. Somebody else is struggling with sexual sin. If I'm struggling with alcohol and you're struggling with sex, I'll really bash you. But I'll not bash somebody else maybe who is going through what I'm going through. You understand? We tend to see perfection in us, in other people's imperfections. So it's to tell people, listen, stop bashing people. You don't know what somebody's dealing with. Somebody you're bashing today is 2 bashes away from committing suicide because they've been through hell and high water. You don't know what that woman has been through. Oh, I saw people. Life is funny. I saw this great lady called Kambua. She gave birth. 7,000 comments. If I had time and look at the comments when they were saying congratulations and go back to the people abusing her, when there was, yes, I would bet my bottom dollar. Half of the ones who were saying congratulations were the same ones who were abusing her. So I want you to understand, everybody is going through something. And today, you'll cut off my hands, not knowing you will need my hands to lift you next week. But you'll have cut off my hand this week. I'll only be able to look and sympathize. And when you look at me to lift up your hand, to lift you up, I'll tell you, I wish I could. I really want to. But guess what? I cannot because you cut off my hands. I remember somebody really bashed me and said these words, and I'll quote, "The day Burale dies, then I will believe this COVID." She died 11 days later.
Wow.
Of COVID. The mother called me. Somehow they got my number. And I said, why didn't you call me even just to help her go through when she had COVID? He says, but she said you have no COVID. Don't cut off my hands. You may need them next week.
For sure. Some very wise words there. Thank you so much, Coach Burale. I hope that you have been inspired. If you have any questions or comments, the SMS line is on your screen. But right now, it's time for a very quick break. When we come back, still more to come here on Full Circle.